Stars, my name is Blue, and today we are lost in Morrigan and Shadow. We left off on Nagari 410. Let's get into it. This is what Laporte was up to while Sim's bones were melting. Laporte flies her terror missions. She goes out alone and returns alone. And between her stanchions, she kills her targets. Her effect on the universe, the vector sum of her actions, is purely subtractive. She isn't fine without Sims. Sims was her captain and her friend, the last tie keeping Laporte in the human orbit. But that's the point, right? Laporte's a monster now. Her past is useful to her only the way that gunpowder is useful to a bullet. The more pain in it, the better. The war is falling apart, slouching towards surrender. Nagari scores victory after horrible victory, but the Federation army can't follow their lead. The clockmaker Admiral Steele outfoxes the Navy again and again, closing in on Earth. Laporte becomes kind of a leader among the operators, on strength of her efficiency, in admiration of her self-sufficiency. She learns the name of every Nagari operator, their habits and crimes, their gym schedules, hey man, spot me, and cooking tricks. Come on, not this curry shit again. She also learns the call signs of every active pilot, physiological parameters, operational histories. But she can't connect the two, the names and the call signs. When a call sign dies on a mission, she isn't sure who it was until she misses their grunt in the gym, their recipes on the heat sink grill. The Federation is still losing the war. Her intention is to keep flying until she dies. But the memory of Sims, and the memory of what she said, "You'll be fine, you don't need a reason," drives her mad with competition. She had a competition with Sims. She always wants to be better than her captain expects. So when she wakes up from a training dream, she goes to Al-Alima and asks, "Why are we doing this? What's the point of noise jobs and neutron bombs if it's just a way to put off the inevitable surrender?" She expects the answer she's given herself. Monsters are weapons. It's not up to the weapon to choose targets. But Al-Alima startles her. As if she's a ghost alive in the memory of childhood Tandale summers. Al-Alima says, "Tell me about Ken." "What is this?" Laporte stares her down, eye to gleaming post-surgery tactical eye. "Why do you care about that?" "You told your Captain Sims that you had an invisible friend as a child. He urged you to develop your faculty for violence." Laporte laughs. It doesn't surprise her that Nagari knows this shit, but it's hilarious that they care. Ants, man. He wanted violence against ants. Ken was an imaginary friend. Al-Alima doesn't waver. "During your adolescence, you were treated for schizotypal symptoms. You reported violent ideation, dissociative thoughts, and the fear of outside intrusion. Your first boyfriend left you because he was afraid of you." Laporte opens her arms in a gesture of animal challenge. "Are you worried?" she says, grinning. "That I might be unwell?" Al-Alima laughs. She can pretend to be very warm when she wants, although it's terrifyingly focused. Like all her charm radiates from a naked wire, charged red hot. "What would Ubuntu have had you do to the ants?" she asks. "What would our Federation's philosophy say to two ant colonies at war?" "Find a pluralistic solution. Locate the structural causes of intercolony violence. Rework the terrain so that peaceful competition between colonies can produce a common good. Ubuntu is for people," Laporte says. "It doesn't work on ants." Al-Alima touches Laporte's wrist with one long, cold finger. "Think about the universe," she says. "What portion of it belongs to people? If Ubuntu applies to human territory, what is Nagari for?" "Oh my god," Laporte says. She understands instantly. She grasps the higher purpose of Nagari. She has a terrible, wonderful, world-burning premonition. A way to win the war. Nagari 510. Ask the Alliance, Steel's people, the aggressors and victors in this terrible war. What is the grievance? The fatal casus belli. Imagine a republic charged and corroded by perpetual emergency. Scattered across lonely stars, simmering on the edge of rebellion, they may be tyrants, may also be the bravest and most tenacious people ever born. This is what Laporte knows. What Nagari knows about their history. Humanity met something out there. Implacably hostile, unspeakably alien. Nemesis. Love is about knowing the rules of your connection. You know how you could hurt her if you want it, and she trusts you with this knowledge. And war is about that too. You learn the enemy's victory conditions, her capabilities and taboos. You build a model of her and figure out where it breaks. You force the enemy into unsurvivable terrain, pinned between the unwinnable war and unacceptable compromise. And what do you do when the rules you use to understand how one thing relates to another stops working? When the other thing has no rules at all? Sims 5.9. Rules about Sims. The Federation military forbids fraternization in the ranks. While Ubuntu treasures community, emotional attachment can compromise the chain of command. So, at first the fire between them, the change in the air, bled off in confined ways. Laporte tried not to look at Sims too much or too little, so nobody would notice her unusual attention. This is like war logic. When you look for the enemy with your active sensors, you can also tell the enemy where you are and what you intend. When they checked each other's suits, they were extremely professional. Soon they realized this was an error, since soldiers are profoundly obscene. But it was too late to start making catheter jokes. Sometimes they sparred in the gym. Sims was icy, Laporte grinned too much. The whole squadron turned out to cheer. They're all dead now. A new rule after Nagari and the Federation's surrender, after Al-Alima pits them back together, a rule they teach each other. You must never hint at your secret fear. The terrible thought that it might have been better if you had never found each other again. Nagari 6.10. Al-Alima shares the history of humanity and the Nemesis. The history that Laporte knows from school. And the secret parts Nagari has collated. There are two Nemesis incursions. The first war, the war that divided mankind into Federation and Alliance, began like a nightmare and ended like an amputation. The Nemesis surfaced from the wormhole web and moved across human space, erratic and arbitrarily violent. Humanity scored tactical victories. Tactical victory is the tequila of combat highs, hot in the moment, hateful in the aftermath. But in the end, the Nemesis world killer called Synod Haja made it all the way to Serpentis. One step from Earth. When Synod Haja entered the wormhole to Sol, the Earth fleet resorted to their last hope, a firewall bomb. It cauterized the wormhole connection, killed Saraja, saved the hearth of the human species, and left the rest of mankind out there in the dark. And that's how the Federation and the Alliance became separate things. Sometimes that's how you define yourself, in the space where you are separated, where you have abandoned all hope of reunion. One night, waiting for Al-Alima to appear and task her with another massacre, clawing up the giblets of her gel maltrust and then smoothing them back so they vanish into the hole, Laporte realizes that she knows Sims is dead. She has to be. It's naive to think she'd survive that radiation. Naive to imagine the end to the war, a happy reunion, a quiet retreat where they can tend to each other's wounds. Sims is dead. It would be worse if she was alive. She would hate the monster Laporte, and she would hate herself for leaving Laporte to the monsters. Sims is a hell of a soldier, a superb pilot. That's how she defines herself. A good pilot never leaves her wingman. What do you call this? The decision to know something not because it's true, but because it's useful. Out there alone, the Alliance survived. 32 years they prepared for the Nemesis to strike a second time. certain that victory would secure the future of mankind in the cosmos, certain that defeat would mean extinction. Capella 4-8. She follows engine first towards the black hole, and Atreus follows after her with its torch of flame and missiles ramifying out into the space between them in search of the kill geometry, the way to confine her, the solution to Laporte. Still, ship outguns her by orders of magnitude. The Alliance fought Nemesis twice. They learned warcraft the Federation has never matched. Atreus' missiles can make their own jumps, leap from their first burn straight to Laporte across a stitch of folded space. But the singularity they're all falling for warps space, which makes it hard to jump. So the missiles come at her drunk and corkscrewing, or they die in the jump and shear themselves open like fireflies burning too hot. Not all of them, though. Not all of them. A few make it into terminal attack. Laporte talks to Sims under her breath, reporting the situation. Boss. Morgan. Am spiked. Stingray. Vampires inbound. Music on. Defending now. She rolls her shoulders and arms her coil guns and starts killing the things come to kill her. And down there, down beneath her, in the growing maelstrom, where space-time frays and shears and starts to fall, where the course of events balances on the edge of inevitable convergence towards a central point, something wakes. The light of a star drive peeling free of the fire. A huge dark mass of something mighty, molting out of the black hole's excretion disk, climbing up to meet her. Ken says, and a voice as young as summer gardens, as old as ants. Hello, Miss Laporte. Nagari 710. The Alliance starts the second Nemesis incursion. Al-Alima says. They're having dinner together. Laporte's sure this is a dream, but because she sleeps with her nervous system braided into Nagari's communal dreamscape, it's probably also real. Al-Alima wants to talk about Ken. Laporte picks up her fork and eats. They're on a rooftop cafe, and there's a warm, wet wind, storm wind, coming from the north and west. The meal is salmon sous vide cut into translucent panes of flesh, like the pages of a carnage book. When she touches the salmon with her fork, it curls up around the tins. The Alliance attacked the Nemesis. There is an insurrection. Al-Alima's a long woman, breakable looking, tall like Sims, but not trained to bear her own weight under acceleration. In Dreamland, she's traded her gray uniform for a real slim black gown. She looks like a flechette, a projectile. Someone broke ranks. After the first excursion, Nemesis behavior was the province of military intelligence. Out of political necessity, or perhaps out of some sense of Lovecraftian self-preservation, the Alliance tried to keep the pieces of the puzzle widely separated. But one of their admirals, Lynn van Aken, finally unified the clues into a grand theory. What was it? Laporte interrupts. The tines of her fork are hypodermic sharp, but she doesn't notice until she's already pierced herself. 3 points of blood on her lips, inside her cheek. We don't know, Al-Alima shrugs with her hands. The tendons in her wrist are as fine as piano wire. Not yet. But we know what he did. Van Aken became convinced he could communicate with the Nemesis. He built a signaling system, almost a weapon, the cousin of the Alliance's missiles. It jumped high-energy particles directly into the mass of the target. Then he went rogue, hurtling past the Capella colony and into unexplored space, possessed by the messianic conviction that he could find the Nemesis and end the war. Laporte cracks her neck and leans back, watches Alliance warships moving through the clouds around them, pursuing Van Aken into Nemesis territory, overcoming disorganized Nemesis resistance with determination and skill. On the horizon, a voice that isn't Admiral Stills begins to murmur about the possibility for real victory. Forward reconnaissance found Van Aken's shift adrift in a supernova remained. Al-Alima swallows something Laporte never saw her bite. She has a little piercing in her tongue. It's strange to imagine her going to get her tongue pierced. Maybe she put it in herself. His crew had mutinied. An outbreak of psychosis. The sky flickers with records of violence. Directionless, obscene. Then a Nemesis boarded her ship. Took him away. What? Laporte stops chewing. It shocks her to imagine the Nemesis claiming a single human being. That isn't their logic. That's human logic. Yes, the Alliance had the same question. Al-Alima points to the sky. Jawed shadows gather on the sun. 4-kilometer reapers set it with foamed neutronium. 3 days later, scouts sighted the first of 86 Sanad Haja world killers converging on human space. The Alliance fought a harrowing retreat, but the Nemesis poured after them, insane, inscrutable, an avalanche of noise. No central point of failure to target, like the single Sanad Haja in the first excursion. Nowhere for the Alliance to aim its might. It was like trying to kill a beehive with a rifle, except that each bee, each Sanad Haja, was a match for half the Alliance fleet. Al-Alima flashes 2 peace signs at Laporte. 4 stars glimmer on her fingertips. 2 binary stars. The war ended in Capella. The Alliance had a colony there. They decided to hold the line long enough to evacuate. Tiny, modeled Sanahajad warships climb out of the webs of our hands, jaws gaping, like scarabs, like sharks. The Nemesis fleet did something to the system stars, altered their orbit. It's tempting to read it as a demonstration of power, an active intimidation or rebuke, except that the Nemesis never used symbolic violence before. 4 stars rolled off her fingertips and spiraled down into each other. Supernova lights pop, rebounds off Al-Alima's eyes, and collapses into a pinpoint devourer, the black hole. 100 million civilians. Al-Alima taps her 4 fingers together, as if to telegraph the Nepper. A quarter of their fleet, all lost. And something more important too. The thing you lose when you realize that victory is impossible no matter how hard you fight. Monsters win, Laporte. Laporte thinks about grand strategy. The Nemesis might return anywhere, at any time. The Alliance needed ships, and weapons, and brilliant science, and something to offer its citizens as proof against despair. A new victory to fight for. So the Alliance did the only thing it could. It set to work rebuilding the way home, reopening the Serpentis Earth wormhole with Nemesis technology. And when that home refers to join their great work, the project of human survival, the Alliance resorted to war. And so we come to now, Al-Alima says. She leans back as if she has discharged her duty and drinks her wine. Our great predicament. A war between an alliance driven by exigency, by the utilitarian and moral need for survival, and a federation built on humane compassion, on the idea that you need to do the right thing no matter the circumstances. How do you fight that war if you're the Federation? If you can't listen to the Alliance argument without a scream of sympathy. You make something like Nagari. A cater of monsters to do what you cannot. The sky has changed again. It sims up there now. She has a face of triangles and planes. A faceted thing. And it pulls on Laporte. It engages her. Combat pilots decompose all things into geometry, threats, targets, and the potential energies between them. You're old, Captain. Al-Alima looks up at her too. We never wanted to recruit her. Too conventional. Laporte looks away from Sims and voices the apocalypse option. If we can find some way to make the Nemesis return, she says, and then collapse the Earth Serpentis wormhole again, we can let the Nemesis wipe out the Alliance and end the invasion. If they collapse the wormhole so Nemesis can't get in, then the Federation will survive, guarded by light years of real space. All it will cost is a few billion human lives. Everything can go back to the way it was. Human paradise. A confined peace. Al-Alima is still waiting, lips curled in amusement. Gunmetal eyes infected with the blind, crawling light of distant computation. That's just utilitarian strategy, she says. Doesn't take a dream to make that connection. Tell me, Laporte, why do you think I brought you here? What endgame do you think all those terror missions were training you for? Ken. A childhood name for a childhood friend. A man thought he could communicate with the Nemesis, Admiral Halen van Aken. Laporte puts her fork through her cheek. In the dream, it doesn't hurt. We're gonna leave it there, Stars. We are a little off from halfway through this story. So we might get like 3 more parts out of this, we'll see. But that's it for today. If you liked the video, please give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already to join our wonderful galaxy. Comment down below and I'll get back to you in some way or another. And I will see you for our next adventure. Remember, we're all under the same cosmic dust, so be nice. Kate, love you. Bye!